Welcome to Game Set Matchup, the podcast where we talk everything partnerships, the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Hello everyone, I'm Carl Busby, your host of Game Set Matchup, the number one partnerships podcast, and we are back with another episode. So today I caught up with Dave Plunkett, who's from a company called Collaboration Junkie. So Dave has a wealth of experience in the partnerships world. And for a first on this podcast, we've interviewed someone who actually educates his business in this space specifically. So the two core things that Dave supports on at Collaboration Junkie is like referrals and strategic referral partnerships. By using proven strategies, techniques, and frameworks, he's helped lots of businesses develop strategies which allows them to target and form partnerships that deliver, the ideal clients that they're looking for. We delve into what a gold star partnership looks like for Dave, and also some top tips on getting into the partnership space if that's what you're looking for. As always, remember you can find out more about Finder and how we are helping businesses to secure discovery calls with vetted decision makers by hitting the links in the description. Enjoy this week's episode. Okay, hello everyone, and welcome to Game Set Matchup. So this is the podcast where we discuss all things partnerships. Maybe you're new to the partnerships world, maybe looking for a bit of advice how to get started, or you might be an experienced pro in the field, just looking for a bit of inspirational direction. Whichever one, we thank you for tuning in. I'm your host, as always, Carl Busby. So please welcome our guest today. We have Dave Plunkett from Collaboration Junkie. Hello and welcome, Dave.
Hey, Carl. Hey, listeners. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah. Thank you for coming. So just to start off, this is our last episode of season 5. So just great to have you on. And as always, we like to start off with our guests. Just get a bit of an overview, a bit of an introduction to kind of like who you are. Just tell our listeners a little bit more about what you're sort of doing with Collaboration Junkie, and what your kind of role is all about.
Okay, cool. So first off, my main job is trying to keep a handle of my 3 kids, who are pretty much 10, 8 and 2. So that keeps me busy and a lover of things, as you can see.
A job in itself.
Background. I am a big believer in as well that we're here for a good time, not a long time. So no matter what we do, let's enjoy it. And that runs through into work as well. So at Collaboration Junkie, we help brands identify, nurture and scale referral and partnership opportunities through a mix of consultancy, coaching and training. And for me, the difference between the two, for me, the partnerships bit is still referral partnerships. So it's working with other brands that have the same shared end goal for the customer, match your values. So you're creating ecosystems where everyone gets value at no one's expense. So that's the partner bit for me. Yeah. I class referrals as your customers, your clients, your wider network. Just how can you be more intentional but more natural about that? I don't really do affiliate stuff. I'm not anti-affiliate, right? But not at all. But my skills really come in how you leverage really trusted, close relationships. That's the piece I excel in. And I honed that with a background in business membership. So I worked for the chamber. I then ran my own membership organization, which we grew to a couple of thousand members, almost entirely through referrals and partnerships. Yeah. And that then changed into a business benefit business where I was responsible working in partnership with some big global brands, people like Yale, Regis, Volvo, lots of the big insurance providers or payment gateway providers, acting as their route to the SME market. So we had reach of about 1 million small business owners. And so we were promoting other people's products to other people's customers. Yeah. And so all partnership driven, but I was more providing leads upstream rather than trying to get them. Yeah. And then when I got miserable running that business, decided to do something of my own. And I looked at what I knew loads about, and it was partnerships and referrals, and so just before COVID launched Collaboration Junkie. So that's me in a nutshell. Yeah,
no, that's amazing. But I was just gonna ask, because I like to ask guests like kind of how you sort of fell into the role. You kind of touched on that there in terms of how you came from the business stuff. So, and obviously now, again, I mean, it's quite obviously brave to be going and doing something, obviously on your own, like basically doing your own business. How has that sort of been in terms of like obviously getting it set up and just like doing it on a day to day.
So what was really interesting was the intention. The benefit business was a 6-figure business with not many overheads. I was just miserable running it because it was so process driven.
Right.
And it wasn't my thing. I wanted to build a business of my own design. The intention was to let that one dwindle down because it was a recurring revenue business while I built the consultancy up. But a little thing called COVID happened 2 months later and wiped out 95% of the revenue in the other business. So because we were too reliant on a handful of key partners and clients, which I knew but I hadn't done anything about. And so it put a bit of a rocket up my ass in terms of designing products and services and everything else. But in hindsight, the role I'm doing now is the one I'm meant to be doing. I absolutely love it. So if that hadn't happened, maybe I wouldn't be all in on this as much as I am. So
No, that's amazing. Yeah. Well, I think it's just, again, I mean, I know it's one of these cliches, everything's happened for a reason, or like, you make the best out of situations, which sounds like exactly what you've, we've done there, which is amazing. That's great. So just, moving on to just talk about obviously a bit about, obviously the partnership aspect. So I think, remember rightly, I mean, you're probably actually one of the, first we've had, I think, in terms of, more in the sort of, like I said, the education space in terms of helping, sort of business to do that. So it'd be interesting to get some of your thoughts on that. So with Collaboration, Junkie, love the name, by the way. I forgot to mention that. We're going to do like that name. What would you, what's a gold star sort of partnership look like, for you, whether it be with the client or business that you're trying to help? How would that look?
So I think it goes back to that kind of ecosystem piece I mentioned at the start, right? It's a partnership where essentially everyone is getting value at no one's expense. So the end customer is getting a better experience all the way through their journey. I talk about customer value chains, right? You've got customer with a problem over here and you've got the solution over here, and they visit multiple people on the way to that end solution, right? It's the whole thing of no one buys a drill, they buy a hole in the wall, and they're not even buying a hole in the wall, they're buying the shelf, and they're probably even buying the peace and quiet from whoever wants them to put that shelf up, right? And my thing is, if you can just make that whole journey as smooth as possible for the customer, that's making it better. That's making life more enjoyable, right? And great partnerships are people where they do that. They just seamlessly roll in, which delivers this better all-round experience. And that's why I believe it's so crucial for the really best partnerships, because you're talking gold star here. There isn't just a match in audience and the kind of the practical aspect of where people fit in that chain, but there's a values match. Because if it's all about that experience, well, then the values and there needs to be an alignment there, because that runs through to how you treat your customers and the tone of voice, and that for me is where it's really where you're embedded within someone's processes as well. Because if you've got your partner value proposition right, then your partners want to promote you. They want it to be as smooth as possible. And that's gold star, something that's enjoyable, is impactful, and is just smooth and delivering value all around. So. No, I love that. I think obviously values, obviously one that does come up, quite a lot, but it is such a big thing. It's also, I think, obviously, trust bit in there as well. I mean, we all know things don't, always go according to plan, with stuff. That's life. That's how things work. But, obviously for something to work well, I said, if things don't obviously go so well, you've got that trust that person's not just going to disappear and leave you to pick up mess, which it does happen. So I think the value and trust. Yeah, absolutely. One of my it comes up a lot. So I have a framework for partnerships. Dance is my framework, which is discovery, which is the partner value proposition and all that piece. Assembly, which is the systems. I always say there, the systems bit doesn't win you partnerships, but it keeps you them, because it's that trust bit. It's deliberate. It's the structure of the partnerships. Nurturing, which is all about the partner communications. And on that trust bit, I always say, if something's gone wrong, tell the partner. The partner should hear it from you first, not the customer, right? I think that speaks to that trust bit, that open and honestness. And then connection, and then C is connection, which is how do you support your partners to connect you to their audience, sales support, and then E is engagement. How do you go out there and get them? But I think that trust bit's absolutely crucial. It doesn't win you partners, but it keeps you partners, and that's what we're looking to do at the end of the day.
Yeah, that's amazing. I like that dance. That was very. I'll have to. play that back later. That's pretty cool. That. Cool. Yeah. So as I said, alluded to just a little bit earlier, I said, I think it was one of the first sort of guests we've had who kind of, is working that sort of more sort of education part of the partnerships. But how would you say you've, seen businesses sort of focuses change, sort of over time? And, I guess obviously, for yourself, like how have you sort of, evolved to help, and sort of guide those businesses in, with partnerships?
Yeah. So the evolution piece, my evolution piece is an interesting one because that dance framework is 90% there to be a book.
Yeah.
But it's been like that for about a year and a half. And it's because
Wow.
every single time I work with a client, or every single time I do a talk, and I do loads of speaking, someone asks me a new question and I'm like, oh, I've got to add that into the framework, right? So, and so I need to just get the book out and then do a revised version because it will never be finished. Yeah. But in terms of other people's focus, I think, so I do quite a lot of work in the service space, particularly around agencies as well. And I think there's this realization around the amount of work that goes into setting up a partner program. Like there's a lot of work to do that initial setup if you're going to do it right. And then once it's there, like it pays dividends, and the compound effects of it are huge because there's, you've got the software kind of side where like partnerships have been embedded, channel sales and tech and all that. It's there, it's ready, and they're very systems driven. I think in the service space, there's a bit more of a realization that it isn't just about shaking someone's hand and then the partnership's just happening, because they don't, right? You've got to do the work. You've got to do that joined up bit. But then equally from the more kind of tech side, I think there is this, and maybe this is the piece with AI coming in and everything else. I think there's been a tendency in the past to over automate partnerships. We don't need to speak to our partners. They can get everything they want from our dashboard, right? Which is great. Awesome that they can do that. But sometimes that's perceived value rather than actual value, because at the core of a partnership are people. And I think 100%. I'm all for using AI, by the way, and automation and templates in the right place, right?
In the right place,
updating dashboards, giving people live info, keeping people up to date on progress. That can all be templated. But just don't forget there's a bloody relationship at the core, because that's where you get more opportunity. Be curious, and so I think that from one side, people becoming more process driven, from the other side, people realizing there is still this human piece there, but the amount of work it takes. So I suppose the biggest evolution for me with my own clients is working with them for longer periods, because I go in and go, right, here's all this stuff to be done, and work with them, but then my time would come almost at the project and they wouldn't do that last bit. So I've made sure I stay with people until it's fully implemented and up and running, because there is a chunk of work to get set up, but like all good things, they take a bit of work. But so I think it's that. I think people are realizing this is something you need to, it's not something that just happens. It's not organic. You need to put the hard yards in to do it properly.
No, I love that. I mean, I think we do touch on AI sometimes in these conversations, but like I said, I think everyone sort of agrees that it's definitely need or will be used in the right place, but you can't be people and the relationships, the rapport you've got with people, that's you need that. That's the core. That's the core part of it for sure. So just quick. One of the things, again, I think a lot of people that are in sort of partnership space. And obviously, one of the things we support with at Finder as well is just like we'd like to sort of ask us, how are you essentially going about sort of finding these sort of relationships, or how are you going about sort of finding partners and people to work with? Obviously, finally, obviously we help members getting that first discovery call with someone to have a conversation, see if there's any synergies that potentially where you can work together. So I think for listeners as well, it's just quite interesting to understand like what kind of things you're doing, maybe I don't know, specific tools you're using, or was it just magic? How are you going how you go about creating your sort of your client, getting to speak to clients and stuff?
So I'll do what I'm now doing, and I'll do the stage of what I tell my clients to do, right? The engagement bit of my framework. So for me, 4 years in, I'm just sorting out my own partner channels now. right? So I'd always get lots of referrals, but I didn't have my own proper partner channel set up. And that was partly because I wasn't partner ready. Because everything happened in quite a rush, I didn't have real clarity around my offerings and target market. It was only end of last year I decided to go, right, I didn't listen to my own advice, essentially, Carl. My excuse was always that my offering is so niche, I don't need a sector niche. But the great things about sector niches is just because, and particularly for partner channels, you can have a niche that you go, right, that's my niche for building partners on that channel. It doesn't mean you have to completely niche your whole business if you don't want, right? You can still work with whoever you want to work with. Yeah. And so for me, having a more productized version of what I did and a real clarity around, I mentioned agencies, I do quite a lot in the agency space, has allowed me to start building up my own partners. And because I speak on a subject, there aren't many speakers, as you said, you've done the first one on your podcast. So for me, going out to communities is a really easy partner channel for me because I can add value. I can add value to their members in a way that kind of attracts more people to me. So there's a really nice fit there. Yeah, that's really good. In terms of, but I appreciate that's not available to all of your listeners, right? When I work with people, they always go like big old communities and things like that they'd love to partner with. And I'm like, great. I'm not saying don't approach them, but if that's your core strategy, you might be in struggle because they get approached a lot on all these pieces. The advice that I can, for most people, if they're just starting out in terms of forming partnerships, they have got potential partners either within their network or once removed. And so I always say, use referrals as your way to start speaking to partners in the first instance. Go to the oldest kind of form of marketing, because asking for a referral to a partner is so easy compared to asking for a referral for business, right? Now, that's still quite easy. But when you ask for an introduction to a partner, if you've got your partner value proposition right, so that it does sound genuinely mutually beneficial, then the person making an introduction, it's easy for them because there's no sell involved, right? There's not like, oh, this person's going to be sold to. There's a genuine win-win here. And so like absolutely, and tools like Finder are brilliant for kind of scaling, or if you don't have a network in your chosen field. But I would say, don't forget to look at what you've got already within you, which is your own reputation and your own network. Just see who people are connected to. And a nice one is if there's someone in your network who's within your partner demographic, but maybe you feel a bit icky asking them to be a partner for whatever reason. Maybe you've got too close a relationship, you don't want to come across as sales or whatever, salesy, asking for help. This is a really nice one if you're just building a partner program, because most people are nice people. Right, like despite what the world tells us, most of us are pretty decent people. And if you ask someone for help, they'll give it to you. Typically, you've stroked their ego a bit, and people like to be that feeling important. But also, people are nice. And if you do that, if you're at the start of your partnership journey and you do that, then one of two things happen: you get good feedback on how you're setting up your partner program, how you're pitching it, and then that person either maybe becomes a partner, or if they're not going to, they'll know other people like them that they can introduce you to. And so for me, that's how I would, but it comes from having a really strong partner value proposition. Really understanding that customer value chain and who do you make look great in the eyes of the customer. It all comes from having, from that piece, I think. No, I really like that. I think a bit just at the beginning there about, trying to get obviously a referral, and it's not basically, it's not going to be a sale because it's something that they, actually is going to work beneficial for both people. So it's an easy way to, to put in. There's not this pressure of like, like I said, they're just trying to sell it to a transaction. So I think that's really, really good. It makes it really easy for people who network. So if people who are out there networking, then looking, so instead of going, I'm looking to work with these people, e-commerce retailers or whatever it may be, actually going networking, looking for partners, way easier. It's a because you can still say who your end client is. It's just a really soft way of doing it. So
cool. And so doing I think you kind of alluded to it a little bit, sort of touched around, you said like what you would have sort of said to yourself earlier. So we do like to ask guests, again, just, any sort of, a little bit of advice, think back to when you kind of was first sort of starting out, what it feels, the kind of stuff you were doing, any advice you'd probably give yourself back then. That was doing one little thing that you think is kind of, make the difference.
It's easy. Well, I got to. So that I think as we can always be braver, right?
Yeah.
And that's a constant one, but it links to the overriding one, which is go with your gut. There is still this thing around partnership. There is this human interaction of go with your gut. And I learned that in my membership days with a couple of partners that we brought on board where like just had an uneasy feeling, but the offer was great. So we did it. And yeah, they lived up to what we thought they were going to do. Right. Yeah. And luckily we had a strong enough relationship with our members to sort that all out.
Yeah.
But yeah, go with your gut. That's the biggest one is if something doesn't feel right.
Yeah.
It normally isn't. Doesn't mean you have to cut all ties, but just listen.
Yeah. No, I love that. I think, obviously, I think that you're just linking it in as sort of being sort of brave, which obviously when you are, first starting out, it's probably one of those things that maybe not so, but that's the whole point of like, that's the advice you give yourself to, to do it, so just to try and be brave. Cool. Just quickly as well, just, talking about the future, and also, we did obviously touch a bit there about with AI and stuff, just what do you think kind of the future sort of holds, just for, businesses and just in the general, like in the partnerships, space. And then, is there anything you think that obviously you'll be doing with Collaboration Junkie to, feed into that at all?
So I think, I think it's a really exciting time for partnerships. Like, it's always been there. I think COVID and the collaboration came up all the time kind of accelerated some of it. And I think what it's really powerful, really powerful for, and it ties in with the modern ways of working, is smaller, innovative businesses coming together as collectives in a slightly different structure to be able to go for bigger business and bigger work because there's this joined up piece. There's still work that has to be done for those collectives to work because egos need to be put aside and all that stuff. But I think it's a really exciting time. And particularly where for innovation and everything, I think the fact that I mentioned kind of tech and software earlier, the fact that those partnerships seem to be much more humanized now is only good for innovation. So I think it's a really exciting time. I think partnership managers as a role, I think is obviously going to be seen as to be more and more important. Quite a lot of the time it was either a customer focused salesperson or a really good person in customer accounts who just got moved to partnerships. So I think there's going to be more and more support for partner managers. And that's, if I talk about how I might evolve, then I think almost all my work at the moment is around helping businesses directly with their partnership strategy. There is something in the offering where I think I'll be doing a kind of peer support type group for new partnership managers to come together and learn and support. So I think that's the evolution for me personally. I think is directly supporting people in those in those roles. So.
Oh, I love that. Oh, it's just something that's good to hear. I just think, like I said, it's exciting times. I think, again, partnerships just as just obviously in general, I mean, whether it be like the bigger business, small business, a lot of people are merging together, or trying to work together, whereas like I said, years and years ago, that just probably wouldn't have happened. People just not into it. It was always like, no, this is our line and we just want to keep everything in-house. And like I said, I think people just realize it just doesn't work. Well, in terms of scaling and stuff.
Yeah, magic happens, right? And there's a lot of problems that need solving in the world, and collaboration and partnerships goes a long way to that. There's some really exciting stuff happening. We don't hear about it anywhere near enough. So. Yeah,
no, I love that. Cool. And then just on to our final questions, a little bit of a bonus question. We like to a bit of fun. We like to ask, obviously because we're all about partnerships. If you could partner with any particular person or a business, around the world, who would it be and why?
Okay, right. So from there's a bit, I would love to work with someone doing amazing things for the environment, right? Because the best way I can make an impact is to help someone else who's making an impact. But really, I thought about this. I thought, would it be Star Wars? Would it be Lego? Lego are like partnership masters, by the way. I've done some content. They pick their partnerships so well. But one that could actually happen and I could actually add value, football up there, it'd be Man United. It would be so... Ineos coming in, if they're forming a business club and a community, then partnering with them to add value to that. Yeah, that would be my dream ticket. So Jim, if you're listening, I'm here ready and waiting for the call. So
I love that. Well, I said we'll do what we can to put a little shout out when it goes out. Can't promise anything, but we do try. Listen, I absolutely love having a catch up. Really appreciate you coming on, just talking about. And I said, first person we've kind of had in that sort of educated space. Just been really good to get your views and experiences. So yeah, just thank you very much for coming on and being a guest.
Thanks for having me. Thanks for listening, people.
Amazing. All right, thank you.
Thanks for joining this week's Game Set Matchup. Tune in to hear more about the need to knows and the do's and don'ts when it comes to creating successful business partnerships.